Test review for Chapter 2. You need to make sure that you know the definitions as you go through here. Remember, when you look at ecology, O-L-O-G-Y, we're talking about the study of something. Ecosystem is both biotic and abiotic, living and non-living parts. So ecology is a study of both. If you have one organism, one living thing, it's an organism. If you have a group of the same type, same place, can interbreed with fertile offspring, you have a population. If you have a group of populations in one time and place, it is a community. If you have a group of communities in one place and time, and you are including the abiotic environment, you have the ecosystem. Biosphere is a thin layer of earth where life is going to be found. Okay, biotic and abiotic. Biotic is living. Abiotic is non. Make sure when you are doing your cycles, you remember which parts are biotic so you can tell which direction things are moving in. We have two major types of biomes. We have terrestrial ecosystems, which is talking about the land. We have aquatic, which are all forms of water. If it is specifically salt water, it is called a marine ecosystem. If the conditions where the organism live changes, the organism must be able to change or it is going to die out and go extinct. We have two terms that we have people get mixed up on. Habitat is where something lives. It could be anything from a hole in the tree in the ground to a prairie to the mountains. A niche is the function that you are going to be working with. Are you a predator or a prey? What kind of conditions do you go? What symbiosis is another form of your niche. Surviving in difficult habitats, again, you adapt or you die. We have three basic types of symbiosis. If both of them benefit, it is called mutualism. An example of this is the humans and the following the bird to get honey, and then the bird gets some of the honey out of it. Commensalism, one species benefits, the other is not affected. Parasitism, one benefits, one is harmed. So a couple of examples. This is a picture of commensalism. You see the pictures of the Spanish mouse. They are simply hanging on the trees. They are not hurting the trees. The barnacles at the bottom are attached, but they don't hurt the shell itself. That is commensalism. Parasitism, one is harmed. Food chain. The beginning of all food chains is the sun. It is not part of the food chain. It is the source of energy for it. Remember the three P's. Autotrophs are producers. They're plants. They undergo photosynthesis. It's the first part of a food chain. After that, we have our heterotrophs. Heterotrophs cannot make their own food. They had to get it from an outside source. Looking over on the side, you see the should be herbivores. Omnivores, carnivores, scavengers are types of heterotrophs. Omnivores eat both, carnivores meat, herbivores plants, scavengers eat on dead things. A difference between a food chain and a food web is a food chain shows one direction for a simple food energy pathway which it can go through. If you've got a food web, you are going to have it look like this, and you are going to have all the different relationships with arrows indicating the direction that the energy is going to flow through. Make sure you can pick out the predator, the prey, the scavenger, that type of thing. On the ecological pyramids, you need to remember it's always going to be largest on the bottom. It always decreases as it goes up. On the energy pyramid, it will go up with the decimal moving one time each place. Only 10% is passed on to the next level. If you look at the pyramid of numbers, you will see that you have more numbers for each level. They get a little bit less, and when we go to the pyramid of mass, biomass, you have basically the same thing. You have the huge amount of mass that is like the weight of all the organisms of that particular part that is going to be there. When you get to your water cycle, you've got evaporation can be from anything, but mainly from water. If it is specifically from plants, it's called transpiration. So this is the one that moves it from biotic into abiotic. What moves it from abiotic back into it could be precipitation, or into the plants itself would be photosynthesis. When you look at the carbon cycle, I want you to remember that the form that it is in the atmosphere is CO2. It doesn't matter if I'm talking about factories, vehicles, something that's dying and decaying, can release it if it is close to the surface. If it is down underneath, it can turn into fossil fuels and it will release it at a later time. Respiration, your breathing is going to release it. The only thing that is going to be putting it in basically is going to be photosynthesis. When you're looking at the nitrogen cycle, it's different from the carbon dioxide cycle because even though you have a large amount of nitrogen in the atmosphere, you cannot use it. Plants can use carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. They cannot use nitrogen. So if you look at this side, you've got all of these that are putting nitrogen into the ground. You have basically two things that are going to be taking them out. One of them, you can have plants absorb it, but it is released directly to the atmosphere by bacteria that is called denitrifying bacteria. And I don't see them on here right now. One of the things that can fix it are legumes or plants that have them nuts on their roots that can fix it. I'm sorry, I'm hurrying. I've got to get this less than 6 minutes. Nitrogen in waterways can cause algae blooms, and if somebody happens to get exposed to it, it can cause what is called the blue baby syndrome, and the baby can die when they are born. Ask me later. Phosphorus cycle, simple. You have the same thing that you had with the carbon cycle. You can have things that are buried, with the nitrogen cycle. You can bury things and it will return the phosphorus to the ground. I want you to notice that there is not any phosphorus in the air. It can be in rocks, it can be in plants, and you can have living things that can also have it decomposes and returns it back to the soil. But this is the one that is in the shortest amount. Good luck.